Hey guys, I'm back on. I thought I was waiting to see if Hitter was gonna come on. He didn't, so I wanted to get on here and do a review. If he comes on, we'll get off because I'm just kind of chilling around the house. I am off of work again tomorrow, so y'all know I got online and did my class, and I almost forgot about it because y'all know I do my introduction to paralegal studies, and that's a class that I have to take to get my law degree. Um, we took it online, and it's funny because in this paralegal studies class, she's a lawyer. Of course, the lady who is teaching the class, she is a lawyer. Um, I need to look her up because I'd never heard of her before. She's a lawyer though, and but she was basically teaching us law. Okay, she was basically teaching us law. I was like, dog, I know you have to learn law. I know paralegals have to learn something about the law. This lady was flat out just giving a law course. Um, eh, it's weird, but okay. She seemed like she's gonna be a cool person. And then I had to turn in some assignments tonight for my theater class. So I got that out the way. I made some chili, and now I'm chilling. And now I'm chilling. I wanted to come back on because I actually wanted to do a review on I found the other hidden colors that I wanted to show you guys. I want to do a review on it. I think you all will enjoy it. Like when I see like videos and stuff and it's kicking a lot of knowledge, I like to share it because that's my thing. Like that's so my thing. I wish I could get on here, but I know that would just be too goofy to be getting on here, like looking at everything that I enjoy looking at. Like it would be so boring to y'all because I enjoy, like earlier today I was looking at like the whales and how strategic they are. Then I like to look at the lions documentaries. um the chief, my our head boss sent out an email saying we don't have to come to work tomorrow because of the roads, and all of the courts are closed. So when all of the courts are closed, that means that it means our office will be closed too. Thank God. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So I get to do some of the things I need to do tomorrow, and I think I could stay up late tonight. Cause y'all know I have been falling out going to sleep pretty early because I'd be so tired just from all of the stuff that I do. But I think I am going to. No, I don't even have to do that. I was thinking about it, I was like, I made sure, I don't know why, but like Friday before I left work, I made sure that all of my cases that was due this month, I closed them all out. I finished them up and closed them out. I guess, I mean, maybe it's because I did know that the storm, the weather was going to get bad. But it just so happens that our office has been closed anyways. But um, the rest of my cases are due in February, but one. And I think that case is going to have to be rescheduled because who knows if the course, I'm looking at how thick that ice is out there. It is so bad. It is so bad. I don't recommend nobody getting out. Um, but I don't know how it's gonna be. Court is gonna even be regulated on Friday. Because one thing about all those judges, they will close them courtrooms down. They get to decide on whether their court is open or not. And they will close those courtrooms down. So hey Ashley, hey the Black Barbie, Tyranny, Angel, Joy Loves God. Did I miss anybody? Clarinetta. And all those that are in the bushes. I know I was on for a long time today, but I'm going to try not to stay on for a long time tonight. I guess what I want to try to, it's a good thing that I can come on as much as I have been coming on for the last couple days. I'll probably come on early in the morning because I always get up early. But then if the prosecutor don't send us out an email saying that we're off Wednesday, I'll be in bed early tomorrow night. So anyway, y'all, how everybody doing? You guys, I want to do a review on a documentary. I hope that you all enjoyed the other little documentary that we did the review on and the other day. And there's one that is a lot better. As a matter of fact, that first one that we was looking at, I realized that I had never seen that one before. The one that I'm getting ready to show is actually the one that I had seen before. That was really good. And I think you all I want to do a review on it. I think it's like loaded with a lot of great information. I find it offensive when we start to learn, or you get somebody on here and they start to want to share knowledge about where we came from and our community and the atrocities and all of that. And then people come up in the comments talking about you're trying to be divisive. So you're trying to be divisive. The Jews can talk about their atrocities all day. But for some reason, the African American history, they want to try and hide now, And so when people start speaking boldly about it, all of a sudden you're being divisive. So anyway, y'all, let's get to it. Let's go ahead and get started. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Y'all hit the like button. Okay. Oh yeah, that weather is too bad for that. I know it's sad though that you couldn't.
So Black people said, okay, well, how about
work harder? We're mirroring what they have always done to us since we got off those boats.
It's easy to sit up somewhere and talk with black people about black people, but it's not so easy to have to sit up and look in white people's face and talk to them about white people. Now that's what I know.
43 million black people. I think that probably 10% of our community at this moment in time would have a real consciousness about their ancient and modern history. That 90% of us don't have a clue of who we really are.
My mom used to say, you darker, work harder. The darker you are, the harder you have to work, the smarter you have to be.
Folks were breastfed on racism. Breastfed them.
If you're talking about a problem in the world and you're not dealing with white supremacy, you ain't talking about the problem.
There's never been a real dialogue in America about race, because whenever we start to talk about race, the conversation will venture into, well, what's wrong with black people?
White people did whatever they wanted to do to black people. So what are the rules?
And that's kind of like what I was talking about when we was looking at the other one, the other documentary, the number one. Somebody came in here and was like, well, they weren't cool with, it was probably just a troll. But I don't think there's anything that's offensive. It should be offensive to all Black people when you start wanting to talk about the history, not to promote hate of today's people, but I really think sometimes a lot of today's, white people can be insensitive because a lot of them don't care to know the history of what happened to our ancestors. And so they are right. They didn't do what happened back then, but I think that it would be important to know what happened back then, right? For everybody, because a lot of Black people don't know because they're starting to hide it now.
Africans and cartoons.
Because racism is not a noun, it's a verb, it's an action. And in order for a person to practice racism or to be a racist, they have to not just have prejudice, they have to have power to influence the success or failure of another group's life. That's a racist, and we don't understand it. We think it's just not liking somebody.
Racism has to do with power. For example, a Black person could stand on the corner and say every negative thing they could think of to say about a white person. They can't determine where the person lives, how much money the person is going to make, whether they're going to have health care. So racism is a power dynamic. It is a power system dynamic. And Black people are the victims of racism. Calling a person names is not the same as being able to control every aspect of that person's life.
Racism means to control somebody's faith and destiny. I can hate you because you're Jewish. I can hate you because you're Irish. I can hate you because you're German. That's prejudice.
America was founded on racism. There's no institution that can get away from the founding principles of its origin. America was founded on the oppression of African people, the enslavement of African people. In order for you to get away from that, you're going to have to reconstruct American society from the bottom up.
Well, if you are struggling for your genetic survival, then the threat to your genetic survival has to become a target. And the Black male is perceived as the threat to white genetic survival. It's because only males, whether they're white, Black, brown, red, or yellow, can impose sexual intercourse. Females cannot impose sexual intercourse. So if the male, and if the Black male is perceived consciously and or subconsciously as the genetic threat, then he has to be attacked. And so this is what we see, whether it's unemployment, incarceration, failure in school, because there is war going on.
Let me just say this. I remember there's a documentary and they keep taking it down called Vaxxed. And Vaxxed, they put the documentary out about 8 or 10 years ago. And Robert Kennedy, who is now working in Trump's administration, Robert Kennedy was working for the Center for Disease Control. And Robert Kennedy and a lot of other whistleblowers that worked for the CDC blew the whistle on, the vax to the nations. Y'all know, I can't say the word, the vax. I'll just say the VC. That they were making that was targeting African-American boys, right? They was doing it through the VCs, okay? And so Bobby Kennedy, the reason they made Vaxxed, that documentary in which they really tried to suppress, but they didn't want a lot of Black people looking at that. is because Bobby Kennedy says that he went to all of the Black ministers with big congregations like the T.D. Jakes, like the Eddie Long, well, not the Eddie Longs, but the Creflo Dollars. It might have been Eddie Long at that time, may have not been dead. The Creflo Dollars, all of these big preachers who could convey the message of what the target, the hit that they had put on Black boys through the VCs, right? And he says what he was met with was a lot of the Black pastors did not want to spread awareness about this because they was taking a lot of their churches, they was getting millions of dollars from the government. Right. And so what he ended up doing was he ended up going to Minister Farrakhan, and Minister Farrakhan was traveling, putting the message out. This is around the time that they banned, shortly after that, that's when they banned Minister Farrakhan. They tried to say because he was spreading hate. That's not why he was really banned, because he's been spreading the same message forever. All of a sudden, you want to ban him from social media. You want to ban him from TV, and Black people allowed that, right? And that is because he was blowing the whistle and getting the message out about what they was doing through the medicines. But yeah, but I digress.
The cloak of Obama, under the illusion of inclusion, as I like to call it, Black people are suffering more now than they did under both George Bush and Bill Clinton. Our unemployment rate is higher. Our incarceration rate is higher.
Whoa.
Every index of so-called progress for Blacks is worse under Obama than the 2-3 previous presidents. You always put a Black face in office when you're about to take things back from Black people.
Let's be clear. I'm not suggesting that Black people don't hate white people. There are plenty of Black people that go, I hate you. I hate you. I call your names, get pictures of white people, throw darts at them. But you still get the loan. So the fact that Black people don't like white people doesn't mean they have the power to affect them as an entire group.
See, white ain't a color, it's an attitude. And you got to have big bucks to be an attitude. But here's what they didn't hide. They said, if you have 1 32nd Negro blood, you're a Negro. Now think about what they just told you. This is a cat who don't like me. He said, if you have 1 32nd Negro blood in you, you know what that really means? And all they're equal, one Dick Gregory, you got to put 32 white boys next to me. Are you crazy?
Black people look at racism as a moral issue. And when you look at racism as a moral issue, especially for Black people, you automatically relegate racism to the realm of religion. That's a problem, because now the solution to racism becomes baptizing or Islamicizing white people into the righteousness of God and equality. And the problem with that is that the church and the mosque, ironically, have been some of the biggest perpetrators of history, of racism in global history. The Roman Catholic Church was one of the first institutions to actually give permission, okay, for African people to, quote unquote, be reduced to servitude.
To get someone to actually think that someone else is inferior, you have to raise that type of mentality to a religious level. And that's why racism essentially was given its validation through the church. And it is the church that gave it a divine presence in order to say that whatever atrocities you commit in the name of the church is justified because these people did something against God that warrants their punishment and their social status.
Okay, y'all know we have to stop it for a few minutes. Anybody that I missed that came in? Hello. I don't know if I spoke to you, Your Choice Toyin, but hello. Okay, you guys.
What makes it so hard to fight it is because it's invisible. When you go to court and you sue for discrimination, when you go to court and you sue for racial prejudice, I didn't get hired because I was black. I was kicked out of school because I was black. You have to prove racist intent on part of the perpetrator. So racism, as white supremacy's chief weapon, is difficult to combat it because you have to prove that the person who committed the act of racism had the deliberate intent of discriminating against you because of color. And because we are all humans, nobody's perfect. So there's a million reasons they can use as an excuse for why you didn't get hired. He didn't have enough experience, but you really didn't get hired because you were black. There's a million reasons they can use why you didn't get hired. He was overqualified. Now look at that. You talk about some reverse racism. You told me I couldn't get the job because I didn't have a college degree. I came back with a master's. Now you're telling me I'm overqualified. So now before I didn't get the job because I didn't have enough education. Now I don't get the job because I got too much.
I've always felt like that was a bunch of baloney too. You know, a person don't get a job because they're overqualified. And I do believe that started, that particular thing right there started to oppress blacks. Okay. I do believe that because how can you be overqualified for a position? If you're overqualified, that means that you are qualified.
So the problem with racism is that it can hide behind everyday human errors that all of us have.
Blacks was called Africans, white was called Europeans. You know how many people don't know there was more white slaves in America than black slaves? They call them indentured servants. Okay, so they came together one day and said, "Man, listen," and they overthrew the slave master in that whole area. So they said, "Wait a minute, let's think about this. Here's what we do. Let's call the Africans black folk and the Europeans white folk." That's where that came from. Nobody in the world referred to themselves as white folks.
There were no people classified as white before the 15 and 1600s. As a matter of fact, the term Caucasian is a very relatively new term. It was a guy named Johann Blumenbach who came up with that term around 1790, 1795. So these are relatively new terms.
Were there white people in antiquity? She asked that question. Were there white people? And certainly people with lighter skin existed, but did they perceive themselves as white? No, for neither the idea of race or the whole idea of whiteness, it didn't exist. People weren't, there was no real relevance given to that kind of idea. People were more interested in the regional stuff and but there was no concept, not until the construction of the mid-1800s notion of the Caucasian, Carl von Linnaeus and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, who came up with this whole idea of this Aryan nation, just a whole basic fictitious hot mess, did the whole idea of race and whiteness even appear. But with the emergence of that construct of whiteness came the emergence of white supremacy.
To know your history is everything, no matter who you are, especially black, because you're constantly being told that you were nothing but a slave. Constantly. No one began as a slave. That's not what God put you here for.
If you know anything about the history of slavery, that's the first thing that they did. They beat your history and your native tongue out of you. And what's amazing about America, even the state of Texas the school board is now expunging slavery out of the books so they won't have to be held accountable for what they did.
Here's the thing, and they started doing that way years back. You know, we already only had, because history, when we were in school, a lot of you all that are in your 40s like me, it was not the history, it was social studies, right? They called it social studies, which was the history books or whatever, but it was nothing but a small little minute maybe chapter, and I don't think it was a whole chapter that spoke about Black history. It did speak about a little bit about slavery. And now what they slowly started doing, and you have a lot of Blacks who get on these school boards that ain't qualified. You know, let people tell them outside of our community, oh, well, you know, we're trying to unite, and we really don't, kids don't really need to know about that. You know, we don't want them to ever know about those atrocities. And you got a bunch of damn cuckabug heads that agree with it. Okay. But I digress.
It's going to be difficult for people to prove intellectual inferiority. That's why even in our textbooks in school, they don't like to teach our children about Black inventions, because even greater than our African history are our American inventions. Because from nowhere, you're coming up with things that revolutionize the American social and economic order.
Well, basically, there is a proverb that says that the only thing that peoples of European descent ever created was the patent office, because they stole everybody else's ideas and put their name on it.
During slavery, because you were the property of your master, a lot of what we invented was automatically given credit to the master. The credit was forwarded to the master because we was property. We weren't allowed to take fame or notoriety for the things we created.
Anything that made work easier. Why would white people want to invent something that make work easier when they have Black folks to do it?
You have a huge incentive to try to get things to move smoothly, so that, you know, you don't get any more lashes, you know, or somebody doesn't now have to sell someone else in your family. You know, there was a lot of incentives to create inventions.
And that's another thing. Most of our Black inventors had to deal with idea theft. White folks would come in and say, we did it first because we didn't necessarily know the process or have the money to patent our inventions. So white folk will find out what a Black person invented and go do it real fast and get their application in, because back then the process wasn't as thorough as it is now. Whoever got their application in first to the patent office, that's who got the patent. So we got thousands of inventions by Black people. We'll never even know it because of the fact that they were stolen.
They don't want anyone to know that we invented things. So if it wasn't for Black people, white people couldn't take a dump. A Black man invented the toilet, and he just made it white on purpose.
A slave by the name of Black Sam, Eli Whitney Slade, created the idea for the cotton gin, and his master took it and patented in his own name. How could he do that with no benefit of books? He wasn't even allowed to learn.
A lot of people assume just because African slaves were illiterate, they were ignorant. And there's a real big difference, because African people, they had a very elaborate language or elaborate languages over in Africa. When Africans were brought over here, they were taught a bastardized version of English, and they...
Okay, y'all know we have to stop it for a minute and then start it back. Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button for me. Make sure you guys please like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, I love, you know, learning history. Our history is really good. And then when you get to listen to and you start to see rappers like Nas and David Banner and all of them that's well versed on their history, is just really awesome. It really is.
weren't even allowed to see the language written down, and they were taught the language by lower class Europeans who were living in the South. So even though there was that major obstacle, blacks still did phenomenal things. Thomas Edison was known for stealing people's inventions. He was known for taking the inventions of a few African-American inventors. Lewis Latimer, Granville T. Woods actually went to court with Thomas Edison, and Granville T. Woods actually won his case.
Thomas Edison tried to bring Granville T. Woods to court on that invention. And I just saw a commercial for Mazda, I believe, cars, where they said, here's a man holding 1,000 patents. Well, 90% of them he stole.
Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison, who are probably considered America's two greatest inventors of all time. But guess who was designing their blueprints for the patent application? A black man. Now let's think about this for a minute. If you invent something, why do you need me to do the blueprints for the patent application? If it's your idea, how in the hell can I do the blueprints for it? You can't do the blueprints for my idea. I have to do them. So if Latimer is doing the blueprints, if he is your chief draftsman and he's doing your blueprints for your patent application, Alexander Graham Bell, did you invent the telephone or did Lewis Latimer invent the telephone?
Thomas Edison had a whole troop of people that was in his sweatshop, and depending on the invention, he would hand it over to that particular department and tell them, see what it is that does, and then do something a little different, and we'll patent that.
Ain't nothing changed. Don't we see things similar happening in the record industry, in the music industry? What do? These artists, these young boys, they come up, they sit in jail and write rap, and they come up with this rap off of the top of their head. They go and get some of their friends that know how to make beats and stuff to make these beats, and then they make a hot song like F Ninja Free, like Glorilla did, and then you get a Sharky cuckabug head that has learned the scammy practices of what these people in the industry has been doing, and they go and sign them so that they can steal the song, and now she no longer owns the song. Okay, and that's how they do to a lot of the artists, not just him. Okay, but what I'm saying is those are the practices that are still going on today, where these black boys don't really own any of their music that they write.
And when he took Granville T. Wood's information and tried to make it his own, the court said no.
The watermelon and black people stereotype, that came and that was popularized by Thomas Edison. Around 1890, Thomas Edison put together this Nickelodeon reel. There were these African-American men who were joking around, shucking and jiving and kind of mugging for the camera, and they were eating watermelon. And Edison filmed this, put this out, and the general public saw this, and they said, okay, African-American people must really love watermelon. And right after that film came out, thousands of postcards and all types of memorabilia flooded the market of African-American people eating watermelon. So that watermelon stereotype was popularized by Thomas Edison.
A lot of people don't know there's an African-American male who is significant, has patents on the first major computer chips that made computers operate.
Other inventors that we don't know about, essentially, who they call the father of the internet, was Philip Emeagwali, a Nigerian man who essentially created the connection for quantum bits of information so that multiple computers could actually communicate with one another.
During slavery, and this is well documented by white people, many of the masters, when they were sick, did not call for the physician. They called for the big mama on the plantation, and she would come with her medicine bag that didn't have alcohol and rum. They had all types of things that she made from the herbs that she had planted. Some of them said, I don't want the doctor. Bring me the witch doctor, that voodoo woman who I own.
Africans took what they brought from Africa, which would be a ground hockey, and all they did apply the game to ice.
Wow. That's so true. That's so true to Black Barbie. That is so true. That is so true. I'm gonna skip through in a few minutes to like closer to the end. What's up, Hitta? I'm gonna skip through like to closer to the end so that because there's a particular part that I think that everybody should see. All of it, I think everybody should see, but definitely there are some critical parts in this documentary. This particular one is totally loaded. I can't believe I ate that chili and now I'm tired.
When the British were fighting the United States, people founded and settled many cities around the country. Buffalo, New York was founded by a black man. They called him Black Joe Hodges. Many African-American people had a less volatile relationship with the Native Americans. A lot of the European settlers, they were beefing with the Native Americans. So they couldn't go into certain areas peacefully. But a lot of African-American settlers would go in there and they had somewhat of a camaraderie with the Native American people. In Los Angeles, 44 African-American families came to Los Angeles and founded Los Angeles. The governor of what was then known as Alta, California, which is now the state of California, the governor was a man of African descent named Pio Pico. And there's a street out here in Los Angeles called Pico Boulevard named after him. You had an African-American woman named Biddy Mason, who was a very wealthy landowner in early Los Angeles. So African-American people were very prominent in founding many cities around America.
Chicago was a city founded by Jean-Baptiste Pointe-du-Sable, a brother of Haitian background coming up through and founding this city, Chicago, because that is what the indigenous people called it in this part of Illinois. Now, Seneca Village really is a misnomer for Senegal Village. Seneca Village was a community in New York City that was purchased by freed Africans. When the enslavement of African people was abolished in 1827, Senegal Village became a meeting place for African people in general. The backstory, it is believed that Senegal Village became part of the Underground Railroad for African peoples. Starting in 1855, you're going to have people start to call it a shanty town, where people who are squatters live. They're going to demean the importance of Senegal Village. Going to say, you see all these African people moving up in here, and they're squatters, they don't belong there, and we need to create a park. And so they begin to put themselves upon the people. Finally, the mayor signs an edict saying, eminent domain, you got to get out. And so by 1857, the last Africans were forcibly removed from their homes.
What's interesting about Central Park, it was once an African-American community, Seneca Village. And now there's an ancient African monument. There's an obelisk in Central Park right now. That's from ancient Africa, from ancient Kemet. And a lot of people don't even realize it's there.
A lot of people think that the enslavement of African people was only down south. That's not true. The largest plantation in the 13 colonies at one point in history was in Brooklyn, New York. And you know that area down there, down by Battery Park, where they used to bring the ships into that area, the port. And they would dock the ships and they would bring the Africans up out the ships and they would.
Y'all hit the like button. A few of the people that's in here. Make sure you guys hit the, what's up, Hilda? Make sure you guys hit the like button, okay? I'm getting ready to forward it to the part I want you all to see in a minute.
Walk them across to be sold. However, what they did was, because they couldn't sell all of them, they used to put them in different prisons along this particular path. And then they would march the Africans that they were ready to sell down the street. Down a street called Wall Street. Down into a place we today call the New York Stock Exchange. African people were the first stocks and bonds sold on the stock exchange. There's a movie by Bruce Willis that will show you the prisons that are underground, the stock exchange building.
Wiley Jones was a former African-American slave who went into Arkansas. He stacked his money up and he became a railroad owner. He owned a railroad system, and the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas ended up buying his railroad system, and that system is still owned by Pine Bluff right now. The Patterson Car Company was a car company founded by former slaves, African-American men, and the Patterson Car Company was the first African-American car manufacturer in the country, one of the, I think the only manufacturer in the country. And what's interesting about the Patterson Car Company, it was in Ohio. Their cars were considered higher quality than the Model T cars that Henry Ford had.
The DeRay brothers, Ford and them stole it. That's why all over the world, Ford never gets credit for inventing a car. He gets credit for mass production.
The cars began coming off the assembly line at the rate of 1 every 40 seconds.
Until that, they take one car and put it together. One car and put it together. But where did he get that from? George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was never around black folks till he went to Tuskegee. His mother and father died or was killed. And a white family adopted him from Iowa. You know, black folks in Iowa, football players. So he went to grade school, high school, and they didn't have no secondary school. They didn't have enough people. And so now George Washington Carver leaves after he gets all this education come out of there. He goes to Tuskegee. Henry Ford came down to visit, like he always see his friend. He said, Mr. Ford, I got something here. Study plants. And so if you take this back and give it to your engineers, they can build more than one car at a time. He took it back. Mass production all over the world is called the plant, right?
Everybody made joke of him because they.
Y'all hit the like button. Y'all know we have to stop it ever so often. I hope that you all are enjoying this documentary. It's loaded with so much good information. I said I wanted to forward it, but it's just loaded with so much good information and knowledge. That is too.
He said, well, but the plants are talking to him. Is this how he's getting these properties of these plants? And George Washington Carver, in his quiet, dignified way, said, well, who taught me? I'm not saying that they talk to me like they got a tongue, but I can look at a plant and see what it can do for the human family.
The military came to George Washington Carver. And they said, we need you to do something for us. Can you invent something that out of it we can get paint, glue, ink, and plastic? Yeah, I can handle it. They tell me how smart black folks are. I can handle it. So he came back, called soybean. Now you want to hear something funny? The #1 cancer group in America, vegetarians. Because you weren't supposed to eat soy. When he got to Tuskegee, they thought he was gay. No association with women, high-pitched voice, they thought he was gay.
The finest use we've been able to make of peanuts is in the treatment of the after effects of infantile paralysis.
Yeah, that's George Washington Carver that's speaking. They said that's his actual voice. He sure has a peculiar voice, Lord. Okay, hold on.
And he'd rather for you to believe he was gay than tell you that them white folks that adopted him castrated him so he couldn't have sex with their daughter. Like, who wanted him?
You see attitude, but they could be good, solid people. But in order to assuage your conscience, in order to make you feel better about yourself as to why you raped her or why you beat her or why you treat her the way you do, you say, well, she ain't nothing anyway. So that's how I'm going to make myself feel better while I mistreat her.
Their sex is promiscuous, right? And how do you know? Well, this is literally out of a medical journal. Their protruding buttocks and genitals were offered as evidence of their pathology of lust because they had big butts.
We accept you as you are, exactly, and you are beautiful to us in that way. But we don't believe that because of outside interference. And so they've given us this artificiality as a concept of what beauty is. And so we want to have all these other things, which are still mimicking white women.
We have seen hot combs in Egypt. African women did use hot combs on their hair, but they did not have a woman of European descent who they were emulating to look like that.
6% of America's population. 98% of fibroids in America, black women. The next highest group, Jewish women. What they got in common? Nappy hair. How come my mother never heard of fibroids? How come they didn't get fibroids? You can't catch it. It ain't a disease. How we getting perms? When we start using perms, those chemicals go through my skull. See, that's how I get fibroids.
Now, fortunately, There is a trend out there where Black sisters are coming back natural a little bit. Now, part of that was voluntary, and the other part is that those perms have burned up and messed their hair up a lot. They're having to go natural now. And the other thing is that wearing those tight braids on the side of their head has pulled out spots around their hair. Some of them, the hairline starting back there, you know, because of the braids being so tight. We're not in the African sun. It's not creating the same type of oils on our scalp as here in the hills of North America, where you have 4 different seasons and terrible weather. And so that hasn't worked on our hair, even though, you know, and some of that hair is made from raccoons, horses, hyenas. It's made from anything, and they put it together, ship it over here, and sell it to us.
I was getting a doll for one of my daughters. There was a white mother and a white girl, little girl, in the doll section. And the mother said, you can have any doll you want. I saw, you know, I just watched the little girl. She was walking around, and I was looking at dolls too, and I was looking to see which one. And all of a sudden, the little girl took a brown doll, a black doll. And the mother said to her, why do you want that doll? She said, because it's pretty. She said, no, it ain't pretty. And not only that, it don't look like you. That's what a white mother told a white child. It don't look like you, and it's not a pretty doll. What happens to the black child when that young white girl meets that black child? What's been ingrained in that little girl's head? See, the adults are the problem.
We have more power as Black women than we will ever understand that we have. And so they come to the people with the power when they want to control a group or a nationality.
Teach a child that you are beautiful. I had a little girl say to me, my nose is too big. I said, well, can you breathe? She said, yeah, I can breathe. I said, well, your nose is just right.
When they make baby food, they really make it for the mother, because the mother's not going to give the baby nothing that she don't like. So baby ain't never had sugar, salt, pepper, and chemicals. So the baby is sitting in your lap and you feeding it, and they see that white baby on there. You don't see it. They see it. And every time she puts in there, a good feeling run through their body. Now they got tests that you can flash a white child and a good feeling run through your body even after you're grown.
Slave mistress. She didn't allow Black women to nurse her baby because she didn't produce milk, because nature will produce milk in a woman's breast if she has a child. So they had their own breast milk, but it was not the same nutrients as that Black breast milk. And that's why they put their babies to our breasts, so that we could give them all the nutrients and put all of those vitamins and everything into that child that they needed, so it would grow up strong and healthy like our babies were.
There's a case called the Buck versus Bell case that makes it perfectly legal for the government to sterilize a person without their consent. And they can sterilize people they deem as undesirables. And that case has never been overturned. That case came from 1927. And right now, a lot of African-American women are being sterilized in prison. A lot of African-American women are being sterilized with birth control. So a lot of people don't realize that the sterilization process is real and is perfectly legal in a lot of cases.
And they're not only coming after us for birth control and get us to sterilize ourselves so we can't produce, they're coming after us for our stem cells. Because this is what the white scientific industry is using now in order to come up with all of these new technologies and discoveries about how to save their lives, how to be youthful, how to do heart repair without surgery and all of that. All of that comes from stem cells, hysterectomies of the 70s and 80s. See, that was the way to sterilize Black women then. Oh, every other Black woman you met had a hysterectomy. Okay, just take all of the organs out and don't have to deal with it.
When I say slave babies to you in America, what do you mentally? What do you see? You see Black men and women with things on their neck, you know, chains, and on their feet so they can't run away. You know, that's what you see. You don't see that on children. Children are going to follow their parents. You see children running free, following behind their parents.
The 1700s, there was an act called the Casual Killing Act in Virginia. And what this was...
Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button for me, please. Y'all know we have to stop the video ever so often. Can't just play it all the way through. I'm going to fast forward it as a matter of fact, I think I may do that now. Fast forward it because there's a part I think they're going to talk about, I know they are, about organ harvesting, which is, I think every Black man should be paying attention to.
Was a law that said that if you killed someone, black, as a result of correcting them, but it would not be considered a felony, but anyone accused, so giving that punishment would be basically free of any punishment or any wrongdoing, called the Casual Killing Act. Stay with me. That means you are beating people to death, essentially. What we're talking about here is folks that were beating people to death to such a degree that you had to create a law to protect you from it. Now then, of course, if one looks closely, we go, who then were they trying to protect? That was beating someone to death so frequently that you needed a law to protect them. And that would be white women who were beating black children to death. Because, well, whose children were they really?
There's the case down in...
Oh, wow. He's basically saying that they were beating black children to death because a lot of those children were mixed children. And so, and you know, there was a lot of that where the slave women, when they were owned, their masters violated them a lot. Not only did they violate them, they violated even a lot of their children, which were a lot of times was their kids, you know, their very own children. But because they were owned by slaves, even though they impregnated the woman and she had a mixed child, a biracial child, and he knew it had to have been his or somebody on that plantation that was white. I mean, they would turn around and also sexually abuse a child because they didn't consider that child, because he had a black mother, to be human either, really.
In South Carolina, where the police had rounded up this woman's husband. She went down to the jail talking about, you know, my man didn't do this. You let him go. Well, she didn't know her place. She was 8 months pregnant. She didn't know her place. The lynch mob took her, stripped her naked, strung her up. They notice as she's gagging, because, you know, they're hanging her, is that her stomach, because she's naked, is quivering. So they get a knife and they slice her belly open. The 8-month baby comes out and they stomp on the baby's head. Nothing happens.
The youngest person electrocuted in this country to receive capital punishment by the government was a young African-American 14-year-old boy named George Stinney, and he was falsely accused of killing 2 white girls. Recently, the government is trying to issue a pardon for him, and that's what they do a lot of times. When we suffer injustice, they'll wait 50 or 60 years in order to give a pardon or to try to right the wrong after the fact. I think they'll try to probably do that with Trayvon Martin 40 years from now.
That was sad what happened to Trayvon Martin, and I felt so badly for his parents. Nobody wants to outlive their children, okay? But do you hear his name anymore? Very rare. And one of the other reasons is that they started a Trayvon Martin Foundation. Well, blacks ain't got no foundations unless they're supported by white money, okay? And part of the agreement for the foundation is that no more of that race stuff. We're going to work for the humanity of man. We're going to work so we can all get along and in unity. Parents had to pull back on that talk they were talking at first.
So about 4 or 5 black police officers, big guys, I'll never forget, because I looked up and they like had muscles on top of muscles. These are some big brothers. And they showed up, and I'm assuming they want a book or something. And this guy has a stack of 8 by 10 glossy pictures, and he hands them to me, but they slide, and they're all lynchings. And I didn't look at them at first. I'm going, well, yeah, I'm really familiar with lynchings, done a lot of research. He goes, no, you're not familiar with these. So I look at them, and they're contemporary lynchings. He says, they're telling us these are suicides.
Yeah, it's happening now, and it still happens maybe once a year down in Mississippi, where a young black boy will be hanging from a tree, and they classify it as a suicide to the side. And when you start looking into the history, because the news media will black out. They won't, talk to the family, let the family say much. And if the family do talk, they're very docile. But just about each and every one of those so-called sewer to the sides, when you start looking into the history of what this young man had going on, that there are whispers around the city that or the small town in Mississippi that everybody knows that he was lynched, and each separately, these black men that was lynched, they was having relationships with white girls. Okay, so it came from their families, or they believed the family had somebody to do it.
And you're seeing all these different bodies of all black males.
Put a child in front of the television for 6 months, they will learn racism, white supremacy, because they're seeing white. There may be a black image, hopefully one that's constructive, but many times not. So the culture is teaching itself 24/7, as all cultures do.
If you look at what happens in our schools as it relates to institutional white supremacy, you still see the child being impacted horrifically by the miseducation of the child and their minds. My argument is psychologically that when you have a young woman of European descent, 23 years of age, in a classroom of children that are in the 7th grade, 12, 13, 14, there's going to be very serious social problems in that classroom. Many times when a young African American may act out in class, that teacher takes it personal and believes that he is attempting to cause physical harm to her. A sister in the class, at least, and not all sisters, but I know a lot of sisters, something going on, she said, "Hey, Kwame, sit down, stop." She doesn't take it personal because she probably has a little Kwame at home, that she sees him as a young man that's just doing his thing.
The teacher said that he was making sexual advances towards her. He was 10, first of all. That's not a good thing to go on. You know what he did? He flipped her the bird. I said, no, he wasn't suggesting sexual intercourse with you. He was telling you where to go and how far. But you see, again, that's where she went, because she sexualizes all black males. That's what her dad probably told her about black males, even at 10, who doesn't even have any legitimate amount of testosterone to even be thinking about her. But still, again, but that's what's been told. All black men are trying to rape white women, right? When in fact, the opposite was true. We have this statistically. We know who was being raped. It wasn't white women. But isn't that what's out there?
Kidnapped by the government, kidnapped by organ traffickers.
Drive-by shootings is organ stealing.
I'm worth $50 million and I need a kidney. Kidneys are pretty sensitive. You got to find somebody who really got the kidney that matches yours. You think I'm gonna wait till somebody die for me to get one? If I don't get one soon, I'm gonna die. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pay somebody to go research people. Okay, let's go look at all the black organ donors. Let's look at all the black people who got organ donor on their driver's license, which is why I'm not a friend of that. I said, if you want to donate your organs, put it in your will. Say that if I die, this could go to my family, my relatives, my friends, or whomever. But when you put it on your license, I believe you make yourself a public target. And so what did they find? We got a guy in Los Angeles. He has the same blood type as you, same kidney type as you likely. He healthy though. He ain't likely to die no time soon. He don't know you, so he ain't gonna give you no organ for free. So guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna arrange a murder that makes it look like he was in a car accident. We're gonna arrange a murder that makes it look like he committed suicide. So the next thing you know, you coming out the gas station, boom, you get hit by a Mack truck, you dead, gone. You get taken to the funeral home, your family comes to the funeral, they don't know that before your body got laid to rest, a little hole was poked and they pulled your kidney out.
A lot of people don't know, when you get arrested or even when you get convicted, a lot of times law enforcement or police will swab your mouth for DNA. And now they have your DNA record on file, they have your genetic information on file. And you have to understand, with law enforcement, a lot of times they'll sell your information to tabloids and, like, especially celebrities, they sell their information to tabloids and magazines and news outlets all the time. So it's not a stretch to believe that they won't use your DNA or your genetic information for nefarious reasons.
You, my son. Cops come by and inform me you just been shot dead. You don't have jurisdiction over that body. That's the coroner. You can't get that body till the coroner release you. So we'll get released, we go down and pick it up, and I see all these cuts and these stitches. I just thought they was doing a routine investigation, following the bed. I know they took your organs. I'm under all this stress. My son is dead. Now you buried now. I can't dig you up because the court got to have permission. Most of those cases is organ stealing.
It's been.
Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button. Move out the way, boy. Somebody trying to send me a message. Let me see. Y'all hit the like button if y'all enjoying. Like, share, and subscribe. Okay, I'm getting ready to start it back up. Y'all, I had no idea chili would make me tired. And I didn't even eat that much. Okay, hold on. Move rims.
Known for a long time, even back in slavery times, that black organs were considered superior genetically to other folks' organs. For example, whenever there's a transplant, okay, especially when rich folks get heart transplant, liver transplant, kidney transplant, they like black organs. We had a famous case in Pennsylvania, Governor Casey, who was one of the most racist governors who ever lived back in the late 80s, early 90s. He had a heart transplant. Guess whose heart they gave him? A black person's heart.
Down in Georgia, there was a case of an African-American 17-year-old kid who was found mysteriously dead at school. He died in the gym. They did an autopsy and they buried him. His family, they weren't satisfied with the results because they still wanted to know what happened to their son. They had the body exhumed, found out that his organs were missing and his body was stuffed with newspapers, and people are still trying to find answers. The officials down there in Georgia, they act like they don't know what's going on. There was another case out here in California. A young African-American man was found dead in Death Valley in the desert. All of his organs were missing. His liver, heart, lungs, kidneys, all gone. There's a case in the UK recently. A Somalian girl was brought over there for organ harvesting. They found out they were going to harvest her organs and they stopped that. There was another case in Asian couples. They went over to Africa. They adopted a black girl. 2 weeks later, she was dead. So these cases of organ harvesting are just going on all over the world, and people are being real quiet about it.
The Rodney King riots. The cops arrested 18,213 black folks. It couldn't account for 10,000 of them.
That's what happened in New Orleans. Remember when you saw those helicopters? They were picking up all them black babies and taking them up in the helicopter. And my husband and I sit there and say, we wouldn't have sent our son with them. I don't care who they was. We all died in the water together. We wouldn't have sent our baby up there. And they never got a bunch of those children back, as we all know.
Organ harvesting in Africa, it's a business. In fact, they've set up so many sophisticated places around the so-called third world where there are nations like France, England, New Zealand, Israel. All these places now are looking in the impoverished areas because mostly in these impoverished areas like Brazil, places in South Africa, right here on this continent. Wherever there's poverty, there's crime. And wherever there's crime, you know there's a lot of deaths and there's a lot of shooting.
They are killing black people for their organs. Think about it. Organs are the only commodity that people must have to live that you cannot buy in a store. So if I am sick and I need a heart, I can't buy that. And we know all the problems with the fake hearts. Now they can give a pacemaker to a bad heart. But what about when the heart needs to be replaced? You gotta find a match and it ain't none on the donor list. And I'm worth $50 million and I could care less about black people anyway. Guess what? Somebody gonna get shot in a drive-by.
Switch over to Haiti. Jean Bellerive, at the time, he was the prime minister at the time when Katie was.
Y'all hit the like button for me. Hit the like button. Hey, actual treasure. I think I'm gonna have to fix me a little bit of coffee. Hey, Big Pressure. Yeah, Dick Gregory. Yeah. Shout out. Rest in peace to Dick Gregory. You don't really ever hear people paying homage to him. And he hadn't even been dead that long, honestly.
Hit with that earthquake that killed over 130,000 brothers and sisters down there in that island. They had a report on CNN with Jean Bellerive, and he said specifically that there was organ harvesting and child kidnapping going on.
And we have already reports of a lot of trafficking, even of organ trafficking.
Of organ trafficking? Yeah.
Now, already.
Of the victims of the earthquake?
Yeah. So,
do you know that for sure?
Yeah, I know that for sure, and it was discussed in Montreal during the conference.
If you live in Los Angeles and you want to adopt a black child, why not get one from Los Angeles? You have every age, every skin color, every hair type, whatever you want, it's here. Because black kids are not being adopted by black people. But instead, you want to go all the way to Ethiopia and get one. You want to go all the way to Haiti and get one after the earthquake. You want to go all the way to the Middle East and get one. And East Africa and a Middle Eastern country, I believe, are the two top countries for international adoption. Why? Because they have poor supervision and tracking processes. Once you get a baby from Ethiopia, and as we know, Ethiopia is one of the poorest countries on the continent. Once you get a baby from Ethiopia and bring them back to America, the Ethiopian government and their adoption agencies really don't have the technology or the resources to follow up and see what you're doing with that child. In fact, I've read articles on it where they say that after about 6 months, we never hear from the child again or the person who adopted them.
They'll take their children, a lot of them, because they're desperate for money, and sell them to a white family as a maid. They don't know that the husband gonna be in there raping the child, boy or girl. They don't know that that child may have to sleep out in the garbage, eat garbage. They don't know really how it's going to be when they get us alone and there's no help coming and no sanctuary for us.
If I want to create a domestic slave, domestic slavery, what better way than to get a child from Haiti who's dying to leave Haiti because they've been poor their whole life, and now they're 9 years old, bring them to America, and after all, I'm a Hollywood superstar, okay? They see me on TV every night. I got a mansion with 3 swimming pools. They've never seen nothing like that in Haiti. And then I tell them, you don't even have to go to school. All you have to do is stay here and do what I tell you to do. We need you to clean this, fold that, buy this, run these errands. They are adopting black children and turning them into domestic house slaves for rich white people. And they will never get in trouble because the black children see this change of life as a blessing. I'm not going to tell. They don't make me go to school, but look how I live. I live great. Yeah, I'm a slave and I don't get paid, but look how I live. I'm living great.
There's a movie that came out a couple of years ago, and you can watch this movie on Netflix. There's a movie called I Am Slave. It's the true story about an African girl who was kidnapped, and she was brought over to Europe, forced to work as a domestic, and she actually escaped to tell her story.
Y'all hit the like button. Y'all can review all y'all want. We coming for. Oh Lord, now this dummy done made another channel. Sir, I fear for my life. That's like the fourth time. As a matter of fact, let me take a screenshot of this dude. This person keeps making he's making threats, terroristic threats over the internet because he says y'all can review all y'all want. We coming for y'all. What's that eval channel? And we looking into y'all stuff offline. We know who y'all is. And he done made another channel. I fear for my life. This man is constantly telling. This man is basically saying that he wants to do something to me. I think this is the same person that's been sending me messages. Sir, you're the same person that's been texting me those text messages talking about you want to RAPEB and my grandbaby, my little 3-year-old grandbaby. You are the person, sir. You got to be looked into. You're the person that's been sending me those messages and you've been talking about what you want to do to children. You want to sexually assault children and you've been threatening to do it to me. You're the one that's sending me these messages and you're coming into the internet and saying it, sending those types of messages on a federal entity. I fear for my life. Okay, somebody take a screenshot of that and send it to me. This person got to be found.
And this is very common. That's going on right now, and a lot of people don't know about it. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when you go to places like New York and you see a lot of domestic workers walking around with these white children, you just naturally think they're regular nannies that they hired. But a lot of these women are African immigrants or Haitian immigrants or Caribbean immigrant women who are undocumented. They're brought over and they're made to work for little or no money. So this modern type of slavery definitely goes on right now.
Find themselves at a school meeting, black mother seated next to the white mother, son seated on either side of them. Black mother leans over to the white mother and goes, oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention to you that I noticed your son is doing really well. And the white mother goes, well, thank you so much. He really is. He's quite the man. He's in the TAG program. Did I mention that? He also won the science fair last week. His uncle's an astronaut. The boy's brilliant. She's thrilled to death, oozing with pride for this black mother commenting and complimenting her son. Then the white mother sits back, and before she can sit back fully, she realizes that the black mother's son is actually excelling her son. So she stops and she goes, wait a minute, you're talking about my son? Your son's the one that's really coming along. Well, that boy is really, oh my goodness, he's doing well. Black mother's response, girl, get out of here. Ooh, yeah, that boy is something else. So, he's a handful. Girl, get out of town. Now, the behavior is common. It's common across class. But why is she doing it, right? Now, the truth is, the secret is everybody black knows that even though she's going, girl, get out, quit talking, but that boy's a knucklehead. She's really proud. Roll that whole scene back. That you have a white slave owner come through, male or female. See a black mother maybe with her children in the fields, or a black father with the children in the big house, whatever. And that white person says to the black person, wow, is that your boy? Ah, that boy's sure coming along. What are you going to say to him? Well, no, sir, he's stupid, he's shiftless, because I don't want you to sell him. If it's my daughter, I don't want you to breed her. Appropriate adaptation of living in a hostile environment. We never unlearned that. Never did.
When we were put into slavery, we were beat into submission, and the person that we looked up to was the slave master.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to make a report. Y'all know I don't have no issues with making reports. I'm sure gonna do it. I'm gonna do it tonight. I think we blocked that person on like 4 different occasions. Okay, 4 different occasions. Hmm. Thank you, Joy Love Scott. I appreciate that. Y'all, I can't keep my eyes open. I gotta go to bed. We'll finish looking at this tomorrow. I'm getting ready to call the police over here tonight to make a report for this dude that keep texting me all these obscene stuff, and then he come into the chat so that they could I fear for my life. Okay. Anyways, y'all, I'm gonna get on tomorrow. I don't know, like I had a sleepiness to hit me, and that's because I've been up all day. It's time for me to go to bed. I love you all. We'll finish looking at this tomorrow. Okay. Talk to you all later.